The annual Monterey Classic Car Auctions that sell hundreds of millions of dollars of collector cars kind of crashed and blew a piston this weekend. They generated just $245 million in sales. Now, let me put this in perspective for you. Last year, the auctions, which take place around the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, generated $370 million in sales. This year, they were expecting to pull in more than $380 million. Several headline cars failed to sell, including the one you see right there, the 1939 Porsche Type 64. This famous car was actually built by Ferdinand Porsche himself. Yahoo Finance's Pras Subramanian is here. RM Sotheby's doesn't usually blow it. They blew it on this one. They thought it would be worth $20 million.
It is the talk of Monterey right now, is what happened at that auction. You know, it was supposed to start at $13 million, but then he announced $30 million as a starting bid. People were oohs, ahs, gasps, 30, 40, 50, 60. 70 million, and then all of a sudden wiped it down, 17 million. Now the guy had a British accent. They're saying they couldn't understand what he was saying. He got all excited. I'm not sure what happened, but that is kind of like a pretty scandalous thing to happen at an auction.
It's scandalous, but I'm gonna broaden this out. I'm gonna call it the recession potential indicator. When millionaires and billionaires hold on to their money, they missed horribly on the amount of money that they're going to sell. And some of the headline cars, let's pull up, there was a 1958 Ferrari Cabriolet. Then we had David Gooding from Gooding and Company. He sells 120 million worth of cars every year. He sold, I think it was 78 million. But let's pull up the video of that 58 Cabriolet. That car went, they thought it would be minimum 7 million. It sold for 6.8. Now I realize it's just 200 grand, but the car didn't sell. Same with there was an Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
Do we have that video? Because that Alfa Romeo also failed. They didn't even close, and they want 5.5 million for this car, but they didn't get anywhere near what they thought it would get. It didn't sell.
And it's back on the Gooding site as on still ready for sale. You know, I was watching the McLaren F1, that really rare LMGT1 car, sold for 19 million. Supposed to go for around 23. So we're seeing the high end come down as well as the mid tier as well.
Well, Pras, you know I was just in Monte Carlo, which is the ritzy car capital of the planet. And there are no shortages of fancy cars there, but maybe people are buying new cars. I mean, I saw all these tricked out Rolls-Royce SUVs and things like that. So there still is some money out there, but you got to feel like on the margin, the fact that things are weak in Monterey is maybe a harbinger.
I mean, this is the class of people who don't care what the prices go up, down. These are billionaires who buy this stuff.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, Adam's like, this is like kind of where those marginal dollars go, right? So if these guys are a little bit worried, right, about spending the extra amount of money for this 1959 Ferrari or whatever,
or just that they're tapped out. In other words, with autos, you know how the cycles work, you guys. Of course, like at a certain point, people like, I've got 2 new cars in the driveway. This is for Joe Main Street, but I've got 2 new cars on the driveway. I'm just not going to buy another one. Right?
There is something when you talk about a cycle. Right now, the hot cars are mid-century and newer. Later, sports cars. So the cars that used to be the collectible cars 10, 15 years ago at Pebble Beach, for instance, a 46, 47 Cadillac.
Yeah.
Those cars, by the way, there were 3 Cadillacs they sold, boom, well below what they were.
Right.
I think you got a Cadillac convertible of 48 for like 40 grand.
What, so people are buying muscle cars instead?
They want muscle cars, they want the engines.
I mean, I was looking at the Hagerty they have the muscle car index, the German car index, the European car index, and you see that it's gone off like this, and right now it's kind of up here doing this thing. So we're still at elevated levels here, but it seems like, what's next? Are they really kind of too bubblicious?
And Ferraris were kind of like your U.S. Treasury. They were always the stable. You're never going to lose any value.
You see the other story in the Wall Street Journal today, you guys, related RV sales.
Yeah, Elkhart, Indiana.
Right, going down.
Pras, does this hurt the auction house's credibility, future auctions?
So with Sotheby's, I wanted to say they had a statement. They said, as bidding opened on the Type 64, increments were mistakenly displayed on the screen, causing unfortunate confusion in the room. We take pride in conducting our world-class auctions with integrity. The fact that they come out and say this is kind of a big deal, because are you going to trust Sotheby's with your next classic car, your Firebird?
I'm going to Meekum.
No, I would trust Sotheby's.
I'm going to Hemmings.
Sotheby's. This was a
kind of
kerfuffle,
My Firebird ain't making Monterey anyway. So
he's Mr. Muscle Car over here.
You'd be surprised what some cars if yours is from the 70s.
All right, so there's hope.
From the 70s or 80s.
91.
I love it.
Thanks a lot.
But you got to keep it. You got to age it.
I'm getting
talking to someone who's got a 1990 Ford Explorer. You get those antique plates, 25 years, and you got antique plates.
I want to buy that Explorer off you someday.
You will? Okay, let's make a deal. I love it.
I'm not going to bring up my 64 Studebakers.
Oh.